Mic check. Now, I feel like I stressed this, or I said it a lot in the last lesson, and but there is a reason for that. The whole point, and I'm going to say it again, every quadratic looks like this. We want it to look like one of these. We want it to look like one of these so that we can solve it. And the reason we want to be able to solve it will become clear next week, but we just want to be able to solve it. So I want to be able to look at something like this and turn it into one of these. So we looked at how to turn it into these two, which is just by factorizing. We've done that, should have done that a million times. I'm pretty sure I set like the advanced textbook for everybody and everybody completed it. So should be able to factorize. If not, then that's what last lesson was about. This lesson is going to be about trying to put it into this form and solving it from there. Now, that's the second thing you'll do. So there's kind of like a checklist. If you're ever told, and you're just given something like, let's suppose this, you're just given something like this or something like this, and it says solve it, and you're not told what to do, this is the checklist you should go through. The first thing you should think of is, can I factorize it? Now, that's got its own little checklist, whereas can I pull out a common factor? Can I think of two things that add to this and times to this? Can I do the A times C thing and break this up? And if you can't do each of those things, the next thing you might want to be able to, you might want to try and do is complete the square. Now, I say that, but it's kind of, I don't know. You might want to do it. You might not want to do it, because next lesson, you know, this is like takes the same amount of time as next lesson does, and next lesson is a little bit more efficient. But if you're told explicitly that you need to complete the square, if this question said solve this using completing the square, then you need to be able to do it. So I would probably say method 1, factorize. If you can factorize quickly, if you're really good at factorizing, then do it really fast. If you look at this and you're like, oh, do I want to try and factorize that? Because, you know, there's quite, like in these ones, there's quite a lot of working out. If you can do that quickly, then sure, do it. But if not, then you'd probably skip both of these steps and go for the next lesson. But just need to be able to recognize that if a question told you you had to complete the square, or if a question told you you had to factorize, then that's what you've got to do. So today, we're just going to try and get it into this form. That's our goal. Now, the first one's already done. So the first one's already in that form for us. When it's in this form, you can draw it. So if this was y equals that, then look, this has just moved to the left 3, and this has moved down 7. So to the left 3, down 7. So that's what the parabola would look like. That's nice and easy. Now, if I wanted to actually solve this as an equation, I would just do it as if it was a 3-step equation. So I'll move the 7 over. So I've got x plus 3 squared equals 7. I'll take the square root of each side. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 7. X equals, and just leave it like this, minus 3. Leave it exact. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. You can write it as x equals root 7 minus 3 and minus root 7 minus 3 if you want, but this form's just as acceptable. Well, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, if it's not in that form, if you're given something like this, if you're told to complete the square, obviously complete the square. But if you're not told and it just says solve this, you should go through a mental checklist. And just because there's no term here, that's the one where it's like, remember what adds to this and times to this, that goes in the set of brackets. So let's do that mental check. Can I think of two numbers that add to 6 and times to 7? Well, I guess I'll think of the factors of 7. 1 and 7 is it. So 1 plus 7 is not 6. But if this was a minus, might be able to do it. 7 and minus 1, so that could be 7 and minus. So this would factorize if this was a minus, but it's not. So that means you can't actually factorize this. So if you come to the conclusion that I can't think of two numbers, then you can't write it in this form. But you can write anything in this form. So that's where we're going now. So now I've got to complete the square. So what I'm going to do is I'll go, all right, I'm going to halve this, 3, and square it, 9. Some people don't write it like that. They'll go like 6 on 2 squared. So it's like halving it and squaring it. So I guess you've got two options there. Now, what I do with that 9 that I've come up with, or this, is I add it on and take it away, or add it to this side and add it to this side. So sometimes I just rewrite this, plus 7 equals 0, and I put it here and here. So I go, okay, plus 9, plus 9. Now, x squared plus 6x. What's 7 plus 9? 16. Oh, what am I doing? Plus 9 equals, and then I'll move this 7 over there so it's out of my way. So 9 minus 7 is 2, and this thing factorizes nicely. Now, if you wanted to think about how to factorize that, you could, but if you just recognize that the thing in the bracket ends up being this thing or this thing, then you're good. So x plus 3 squared equals 2. And now look at this. This is in that form that we had before. So this is kind of looks like this. So now I can just keep going. I'll square root both sides. And then x equals plus or minus root 2 minus 3. Okay. What a lot of people do, and I probably should have done it, is just move this out of the way first. So then it's not like sitting here and it's all confusing that I have to move this over. So maybe that's a good step to do first. Maybe I'll do it with the next one. Maybe I'll give myself some more room so I'm not tucked in this little corner. Okay. Now, this one's a little bit risky. If you're not told what to do, then it's pretty open to error. Because if I try and do this a times c plus b bizzo, what's going to happen is when I get to that point where, you know, when there's like 4 terms and you try and factorize each of them, and you know how you try and add up, you try and end up with the same thing in a set of brackets. Well, that actually doesn't happen. So when that doesn't happen, you think that you've made a mistake, but in this case, it's actually, again, not possible to put it in this form. So that's kind of where the risk is here. Now, completing the square only works if I've got a monic one, which means I don't have a term out here. There is a term out here, and this 3 kind of doesn't let me just go, okay, I'll divide by 2, I'll divide by 2, divide by 2, because I'm going to end up with some pretty disgusting terms. Now, like I was trying to say before, you can complete the square on anything, which means I can complete the square on fractions. So this is going to be a bit of an extension question. Let's do it. So, all right. I'm going to divide everything by 2. So now I've got this. I missed my x. So now I've got this. Now, the first step, I'm going to do it. Move this over here. So just move that out of the way. X squared, and leave a gap. Equals 2. So now what I need to do is halve it. So I halve this. So that's going to be minus 3 on 4. And then square it. So 9 on 16. And that's what gets added on. So x squared minus 3 on 2x plus 9 on 16. And I also add it to the other side. Now this side factorizes nicely into x minus, and it's this term here, 3 on 4. This term over here, 2 plus 9 on 16. What the hell is that? 2 plus 9 on 16. 41 on 16. Yeah, cool. That has lots of meaning to me. Not? Okay, x. Now, okay, just before I continue, have a look at this. It looks pretty disgusting, but you don't need to make it any nicer. I'm going to make this not any nicer. So I'm going to square root both sides, plus or minus square root of 41 on 16. Then x equals plus or minus square root of 41 on 16 plus 3 on 4. And to be honest, that's kind of as far as you need to go. You can go a little bit further because the square root of 16 is something. So I can go plus or minus root 41 on 4 plus 3 on 4. So then I've got a common denominator, but it's a little bit risky because I've got this plus minus out here. So to be honest, I'll just leave it like that and I'll be done. Okay, I guess that's it. Let's come up with a checklist. Let's come up with what we did each time. So the first thing I want you to do is move the constant term to the right hand side. So grab this, grab this and move it. That was actually down here. Okay. Then do the halve slash square it. Then do that. Then add that to both sides. Then you factorize the right hand side, so the left hand side, into a perfect square. And then you just solve it. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Just recognize that completing the square is a strange thing, and it's seems kind of hard, but once you've got it, you've got it. And in standard, you don't actually do it. In advanced, you'll do it quite a lot. So I guess the reason we've done it twice in the last week is, I guess, for that reason. So again, get me back here. Our goal is to make this look like one of these. Now we know how to make it look like this. Next lesson, we're going to be able to solve these without putting them into this form. But there's a reason we wouldn't want to put them into this form, and it would be because we couldn't put it into this form. So you'll notice that with our last two examples, we couldn't put it in this or this form. We could only put it in this form. The ones we're going to look at, well, I guess all of them can be put in this form, can't they? But, you know, there's a lot of working out, and actually the next lesson has a lot of working out too. Oh well, screw what I said. Anyway, I just want you to be able to factorize by factorizing or by completing the square. So yeah, I don't want to make this video too long, but I mean,